July's Subscriber Appreciation Day, and I've got a very special guest for you all. I can already see the chat's hyped up today. So we've got Olly here.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Olly Thorne. I present a channel called PhilosophyTube, and it's very exciting to be here.
Yeah. We've had, so in the vein, for anybody who's new to Subscriber Appreciation Day, it's a once-a-month stream I do where I use the fact that YouTube Clout gets me access to a lot of really cool people, and I try to get them to come
and also me.
Yeah, hey. Don't count yourself out, and then come to this corner of the internet so you guys can have some access, and we have a really fun time to show you guys how cool you are for sticking around with me. So I guess like to start, I will talk with a funny story where PhilosophyTube is a channel that's been around for a very long time.
It's 5 years, so much so, in fact, that I found out recently that in the YouTube branding circles, they have a name for channels like mine. They call them grandfather channels. It's like it's 5 years, and I'm only just starting to get into my stride now. So yeah, I feel like I've been around for ages sometimes. But
and also, this is a very chat-driven thing. So if anybody has questions, just let me know, and I will add it up onto the thing.
Yeah, so, I'll be checking in with the chat every now and again. So if people have questions, chuck them in.
So, and also the first time I found your channel, I kind of forgot over the years. And then when I moved to Toronto, I decided to reach out to one of my favorite YouTubers. And when I was researching his channel again before meeting up, I found out that it was actually through a collaboration with this guy that I found PhilosophyTube. And this was with ye old Sam Sutherland.
Oh, the Sam, yeah. God, we did a thing ages ago about what music is, didn't we? Something about that. Was that the ontology of music? I seem to remember. That feels like a lifetime ago now. Yeah, because I was still living in Scotland then, I think. So that seems like another life.
Is that where you did your masters?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I did a 4-year masters in Scotland. So I started off making videos in my bedroom in Newcastle, and then I started making videos in my bedroom in Scotland. And then I started making videos in my bedroom in London. And this Friday is going to be the first Friday off I've had in like 5 years, because I'm going to go down to making one video every 2 weeks and make them like good rather than rushing to have something every week. So now, as of like last week, I make videos in a professional film studio that I've hired out, because the Patreon has allowed me to do that. So I'm really excited about that jump up. Yeah.
Have you tried playing around with London's YouTube space at all?
I have. I've done some stuff in YouTube space before. A couple of years ago, there was a competition called Next Up, which if you're a smaller YouTuber out there and you hear about Next Up, it's worth doing. It's really good. It's like a competition to find out the next big YouTuber in the country, right? And they pick about 10 winners, and I won a couple of years ago. I didn't think I would. I sent in my application 20 minutes before the deadline and thought there's no way I'll win this, and I did. So they took us down to YouTube and gave us a bunch of training and equipment and stuff. So that was really good. But yeah, YouTube space, in the old YouTube space before they moved to King's Cross, I did some filming, and I occasionally haunt the one that's in the centre of London now. Yeah,
it's really exciting to film in a studio. You always feel so special.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's tough. It has its technical challenges. I'm so used to filming in a bedroom that it was tough. And like the first day I did filming, all the footage ended up unusable, and I had to go back and do another day. And even then, there's some things I want to improve on, like sound quality. So to all my subscribers out there, it's going to be like a process of learning and a process of improvement over the next couple of months. But I've got some amazing stuff planned for that studio. So yeah.
It's really cool. I used the YouTube space exclusively for a while.
Yeah.
But then there's like a tiered hierarchy of how far ahead you can book, right? If you're sub 100,000 subscribers, you can only book 30 days in advance.
Really?
Yeah. And only once every 30 days. And so it looks like I'm just there were always booked solid, and I really didn't I was always grabbing like cancellations.
Yeah.
That like I would need to do 4 weeks worth of content, and I would oftentimes get like 2 days of
notice.
Warning.
Yeah. I thought about doing stuff in YouTube space, but it's quite a long way for me to go where I am at the moment, and like you say, it's tough to like book it and so on. But it's really good if you can get it. But I just thought it's going to be easier for me to just hire a professional studio.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got our first question coming from Don Arnett. First of all, there was a long debate over whether Olly was an Australian term of some kind.
Oh, is it? I thought the Australians called English people Poms. I don't know if we just call them Aussies over here.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. The first question is, what do you think of the conservative attack on comedians over Twitter messages and old content? Is this all right? Is this like a James Gunn thing? Because like but he's not a comedian. He's a movie maker.
He's a director, isn't he? I'm only very dimly aware of this. I think he got asked to lead Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or something. Yeah, I only know about it through what Lindsay has tweeted.
All right, so like I guess I can give like a quick wrap up of the story, and we can take it out from there. So James Gunn is a director who has okay, so you know how like Disney, when they pick up people to make these new Marvel movies, they tend to grab like cult directors who have like a kind of like niche following and then give them tons and tons of money to make a movie. Yeah. So James Gunn is one of those directors. He had a cult following for making these kind of comedy horror movies, or as you would call, or maybe gross movies. Yeah. I think the big ones that come to mind for me are Slither and Eight-Legged Freaks.
Oh, Eight-Legged Freaks. Damn, that's old school. Yeah. I remember Eight-Legged Freaks.
And so they gave him Guardians of the Galaxy. But I guess like while he was like a you know, avant-garde, like gross, like kind of campy horror guy, he made some tweets that were really, really nasty that had to do with like the sexual abuse of children and things like that. And fast forward a few years, and now he's working for Disney making Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Did Disney not know that he'd done that? Or
I mean, they would have to. They have to do like a Twitter search. I think these were deleted tweets too.
Right. Okay.
And a nice gentleman that you might remember, named Mike Cernovich.
I've heard that name. I've seen that name on Twitter.
He's like an alt-right guy.
Okay.
Basically was part of a group of people that were digging up all of this, like trying to dig up dirt on all the people. And
so he weaponized the power of Milkshake Duck to get Jim. Right. Yeah.
So he dug up these tweets, and Disney promptly fired him. Right. And then there's been like a backlash from everybody else.
Mm-hmm. I see. The Milkshake Duck waits for us all. It happens to us all sooner or later. Those of us who make a career in public, it'll be bound to happen to us all eventually.
Yeah, I have a theory that did you watch Black Mirror?
I've watched the first couple of seasons. I don't think I've seen the latest one. I think I stopped around about the San Junipero one. I've not caught up since. You know.
Okay, then this is one that you've seen. So the episode where everybody has like a score attached to their name.
Yes, I've seen that one.
I think it's the biggest distinction between like conceptually interesting versus like how good the episode actually was. But I do think that when it comes to the Milkshake Duck thing, I have a wondering if there's like a point we're going to hit where everybody has to own up for something dumb they did when they were a kid, and
self-criticism sessions.
That, like we're all going to have that moment happen in our lives, and I wonder if it'll just become part of your life cycle of being
confessional online. Yeah, mm-hmm. God knows I wrote some terrible stuff when I was younger. Pobody's an effect.
Yeah, and I mean, like the other thing too is that like this isn't somebody who committed a crime. He made some bad taste jokes. Mm-hmm. This isn't like a Me Too type call out. This was just a I don't know. But it's been interesting.
Is it still like pretty up in the air? Are they still like humming and hawing over whether he's really gone or?
Oh, they fired him really fast, and now there's been a backlash against it.
Right. So I guess maybe they'll go back on it. I don't know.
They might. But I guess like they're trying to refer. So Don Arnett also refers to the multiple, because like after they had the alt-right got a success with James Gunn, they've now like 4chan has been like, getting excited, and so the Dan Harmon thing happened.
Did he have something to do with Community?
He made Community, and he also made Rick and Morty.
Yes.
But he's also pretty like pretty woke celebrity, and he's had a whole lot of
I did see. I saw Dave Bautista coming out swinging for James Gunn, supporting him, which is cool.
So like, I guess like the thoughts about like this culture and the thing that what's causing. Is this some sort of weak point on our half that the alt-right are going to be able to exploit successfully?
I don't know. Like politics, it's always about exploiting the other person's, using the other person's rhetoric as well. And I think the right has historically been like, it works better when they appropriate our stuff than the other way. Because if we appropriate their stuff, we just look daft because they are. So they're very good at weaponizing that kind of like the way, the same way that white nationalists have rebranded as white identitarians, right? They know that it's fashionable. And this is in my video about Elon Musk that I'm planning. I talk about how the aesthetics of counterculture get repurposed and used to sell backlash, and that it's just that process happening. Really, is they've seen that people are like concerned with purity, not like purity, but moral purity, and having good takes on Twitter.com, and they've kind of taken that and sort of used it, and that's sort of historically always been the case that that counterculture gets turned into backlash. I read this amazing article a while ago. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it was something like women's media is a scam. And it's about how there's some, and it's not just women's media, it's like media aimed at younger people generally, is using the language and the aesthetics of today's counterculture, particularly kind of feminist, LGBT inclusive language, and using it to create media that's been wallpapered with that, but it's just like adverts, basically. It's just an excuse for selling adverts. Like there's stuff that's all about like top things to do as a feminist, but there's like loads of links in it to like mortgage refinancing companies and so on. So it's the same sort of processes that they use counterculture to sell backlash. I
mean, there was a Black Mirror episode about that too.
Was there? I need to catch up on my Black Mirror, clearly.
That was from the first season, the 10 million merits or whatever.
Oh, that's with cycles. Oh, that's my favorite one. I love it.
Like it ends with him having this like anti-societal rant,
and then it gets taken. And my favorite joke in that was when he just get like an apple from the vending machine, and the vending machine says, "If you liked apple, try banana." I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like this is on the whole like reappropriating counterculture stuff. I've noticed that if you like look in the past now, like the internet pre 2016 election is so weird just in some ways. Like things just feel like already if you go to like 2015 and you hear like people joking about the election,
yes,
it already feels a little but also you go back even further than that and you find that like people who are trying to be hip and cool using like 4chan isms.
Yeah, it's different. It's weird, isn't it? It's like seeing an old news report and the Twin Towers are in it or something. It's like it's that feeling of wow, the world is so different now. or even just watching an Indiana Jones film where the bad guys are Nazis, and it's like, oh, they're back now, aren't they? They're not just kind of the villains of history. It's like, need some more indies.
And when they definitely remake Indiana Jones and they have to like remake the Nazis as the villain, you can imagine that there's going to be like an outroar. And
do you think they'll do it, or do you think they'll update it? Do you think they'll like make them somebody else and make them like Temple of Doom? They'll make them like cultists or something. They don't want to offend anyone, even if they're Nazis.
Who knows? Because like there was that Wolfenstein thing where like the guy who made the game was like openly like screw Nazis, and
the thing is, when it's online, it's difficult to tell where there's like a backlash. Because I saw that too when I saw at least some people saying, these are people whose opinion, you just disagree with their opinions and you're killing them. And they were like trying to stand for the Nazis, basically. And it's difficult to tell whether that's actually like hundreds of thousands of people, whether that's like 10 guys with sock puppets accounts. But then it gets picked up, and as soon as the media is like, people are defending the Nazis, it makes it sound like it's a lot of people. But there's a thing about like being extremely online that for good and evil makes it a lot easier to appear like there's more of you than there really are, I think.
And extremely online, I definitely am.
Yeah.
I've had my wonderful wife say that I'm like getting objectively more mentally ill as a result of Twitter.
Nice. Yeah, to be honest, I need to cut down on my Twitter use as well, because now that I live on my own, I didn't until a couple of months ago, or less time actually. But now that I live on my own, I use Twitter a lot more, and it's I'm like, oh god, I can feel my brains turning to just horrible slime. I need to like I keep deleting it off my phone and getting it back. I'm like, because I need it for work at the same time. Like I need to. And also, it's useful to like if I've been in the house all day editing, and I literally can go like 24 hours without speaking to another human being when I'm just in the editing, and it's actually really useful to be able to tweet and like just talk to someone. It's really good.
If you're a person in media, like you have to be on Twitter because it's like where everything is happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have 2 Twitter accounts. I have one for PhilosophyTube, which is basically like my main. And I have one for acting, and my acting one is far more kind of on brand. So I never say anything negative on my acting one, ever. If I go and see a show and I don't like it, I'll always find something to praise. Just never say anything negative on the acting one. And yeah, on PhilosophyTube Twitter, I'll just shit post for days, put Daft Hegel memes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's much more chaotic.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that Twitter's created this weird... I'd be interested to think what you think of this, because this is something that I've been thinking about a little bit lately, which is that like weird Twitter and like leftist Twitter and this kind of millennial I want to die type of humor feels a little bit like the Dada movement.
All right, yeah, you know more about that than me, I think. But maybe, I don't know. I enjoy the kind of leftist shitposting discourse sometimes on Twitter. It's good fun. It's a good way of unwinding. Although I've noticed recently that the audiences I have on Twitter versus the audiences I have on Tumblr are very, very different qualitatively. Like politically, there's a lot of crossover, obviously. Twitter's probably more diverse, but just because it's larger. But Tumblr, it's like a really different kind of discourse. Like I can post something on Twitter and people will like reply, and like it's almost like they're trying to jump in on the joke. Whereas I can post something on Tumblr and people will react to it as if I've said it like face to face, and be like, "Oh, that's like, what? Tell me about that." Or like, "Oh, I'm sorry that you feel that way. Like, what's going on?" So it's interesting the way people like Tumblr seems a lot more personal somehow. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just the crowd.
I gotta play with Tumblr. I don't think I haven't touched it in a few years. I've heard it's
decent. I have no idea what I'm doing. I haven't ever known what I'm doing. I don't really know what notes are or how to follow people. I don't really know how it's come together, but it has. I enjoy it.
Okay, next question I got here.
Sure.
Comes from Alex Perkis.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if this spinning thing in the middle of the screen is trying to tell us something. Maybe the stream itself became self-aware and killed Tristan and Olly. Call an ambulance or maybe the CIA. Okay, never mind. I guess they're having some stream issues.
Sounds like they had a problem with the stream, yeah.
All right. Farewell. Having studied drama and philosophy, what are your thoughts on Artaud?
None, I'm afraid. I don't think they were on either of my courses, so I'll put him on the list, or here on the list.
Alrighty.
Artaud.
Sometimes this is a lot of the streams I do. I end up getting a lot of questions that are like, "What do you think of this thing?"
Oh, the French. Right. Okay. Yeah. I get that all the time. Like one in half of the Twitter questions and Tumblr questions and curious cat questions I get are, "What do you think about this?" And I have no idea what it is, because I just don't have time a lot of the time. A lot of them are like, "What do you think about this YouTube channel?" I'm like, "I've never seen it. I'm sorry." Like, I don't really have a lot of time. I have like two jobs.
Sometimes I think they're trying to trick you, because like I've been like, "What do you think about what's going on in South Africa?" And I was like, "I don't really know. I'm not going to say anything." And then I like look it up, and it's like, "Oh, there's like a manufactured crisis made by like the radical right." It's like, "Oh, okay."
Wow. Yeah. I learned very early on that it's okay to say I don't know anything about that. I don't have any comment, or like other people would know better than me. It's fine. It's a very useful and healthy move sometimes.
Oh, okay. The next one is a question from Game Gyro, and I realize it's going to lead to something that we probably should cross over really well on, which is what's better and more important, the philosophy of history or the history of philosophy? Oh boy.
The philosophy of history or the history of philosophy? Like, the philosophy of history is probably pretty diverse, though, because you could do philosophy of history and you could be like, does the past exist? And you could do it from a metaphysics angle. You could be like, how can we make true statements about the past? And you could do epistemology. Or you could do, it's the philosophy of history, like Marxism is kind of a philosophy of history. So philosophy of history is like a hugely diverse area. As for the history of philosophy, you probably know more about it than I do.
Well, I mean, I think that in some ways, I've taken a couple like introductory philosophy courses, and very often the way they teach philosophy is like as a history of philosophy, where you start off with the toga men and what they thought about things, and then you kind of go to the people with frills around their neck and what they think about things, and then
and then Bertrand Russell, and then Saul Kripke, and then
that's the bearded men and what they think about things, and then
and then maybe you take an optional course and learn what some people who are like still alive think about stuff that's happening now.
So like, because like one of the things that comes up is like, one of the biggest philosophy of history people I think I've gotten into is Hayden White, who actually just recently died, and his philosophy of history is like one of the ones that I read a lot when I was a young academic. And his whole argument about how, and you probably find this interesting because it has to deal with a lot of like nonfiction and narrative writing, which is that like his approach to history was that even people who write history are by the process of writing imposing sorts of narrative constructs on top of them.
Oh, cool. That sounds a lot like what I got rid of that book. What Deirdre McCluskey says about economics. She says kind of much the same thing.
And so like his conclusions were like, oh, well, this means that you can actually study historical books as literature. Which is really cool. Like, find what metaphors does the author use? What kind of authorial voice do they use? You can definitely do like literary criticism of history. Yeah, and like a lot of things come out of it because like you can think about find a story written as a comedy and then try to look at it as tragedy and see what comes out of that. And like this is the like what's it called, postmodern neo-Marxist reading of history that some people.
What does that even mean?
That's any history that was done after like 1958 or something, I guess.
Any history that doesn't kind of validate conservatism is written off as postmodern neo-Marxist history.
Okay. Yeah. So, like, philosophy of history is its own field, and history of philosophy is its own field. But I just realized
fields plural as well.
Yeah, I realized that a lot of them are in like would be in like my office, and not a lot of them are in the philosophy office.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had a philosophy office.
Well, like, you probably had like an office around the philosophy department when you were a master's student, right?
I didn't have an office personally. No. But interesting, actually. The philosophy building in the university I went to, there were two doors into the building, and it was split down the middle. And there was the logic and metaphysics door and the epistemology door, but they both opened onto the same room. But it's just from the old days where there used to be like two separate buildings next door, and they just had the double doors. So it was really famous for being like right on the edge of a cliff and having two doors into it. And they told me that sometimes from the philosophy library, if you looked out the window, you could see dolphins in the ocean, but I never did. Never managed to catch sight of the dolphins.
Oh man, that sounds like I realized you went to a UK, probably like an ancient university that was super pretty. It
was 700 years old when I was there. It's probably like 800 now, but it turned. Or was it 600? I don't know. But it's called St Andrews University, but there's no apostrophe at the end of Andrews, even though normally there would be. And I was like, why not? And it's like, because the university was invented before the apostrophe. I was like, okay. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. It's a cool place. It's like Hogwarts. Very ancient.
Yeah, and like my school looked like, well, at least the part that I worked in was like brutalist architecture, all concrete.
Nice. Yeah. Mine had more pubs per capita than any other town in the UK.
Of course, it'd be in Scotland. It's a good place.
Oh, yeah. Scotland is rad.
It is. I That's like one of the few places that, well, it's not a few places, but it's one of the top places on my list of places that I think that I'd like to go to and stay for like a long time.
Oh yeah, it's really, really good.
If I get to be an old retired man who just like writes things, I'll just like live in Scotland and
retire to Scotland. Yeah, that's the plan.
Where
it's really good. It's properly cold as well. It gets like actually cold. So for those who don't know, I was born in the north of England and had to move south for acting work, and it's just hot here all the time.
The accent's a bit of a dead giveaway.
Yeah, it is. Well, the more of this gin I have, the more the northern will come out. But yeah, it's always hot down here. Like it's been like over 20 degrees since like March here, and it's absolutely intolerable.
Yeah, I grew up in, I guess, one of the. I grew up in a place that I think gets some of the warmest summers in the country, which doesn't say much, but gets not so bad. I don't know. It's Canada, so take that with a grain of salt. It gets from like plus 30 to negative 25 is like the range of where I live.
Well, negative 25 I can deal with. That's fine.
Yeah.
The coldest I've ever been.
When I lived in Quebec, it got to like negative 40 in like February, nice. And I was like, "Oh, geez."
When I went to Russia, it was minus 40, and it was really good. I loved it. I love the cold.
You know, when you pass the threshold, when you breathe in through your nose, and you feel like all
your nose hurts because all your hairs stand on end and stab you.
Yeah.
It's hardcore. Somebody in the chat has pointed out that St Andrews is the university where Prince William went and met Kate Middleton. It's also just down the road from Trump's golf course, which is just up the coast. Because St Andrews is where golf was invented, so there's a lot of golfists flock there every year, which is partially why the student accommodation is so overpriced.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Leonardo DiCaprio comes every year and plays golf there or something.
Oh, fun! It must be so nice. It must be like so accommodating and open and not elitist at all.
St Andrews. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was. It had its downsides, but then it also had its kind of had its sort of backlash against that as well, which was positive.
I luckily did all my history grad school at the 9th best university in Canada that's known for.
Wasn't the University of Toronto, was it?
No. That's like number 1 or 2 depending on the year, but it's known almost exclusively for science and medical research. And so like we were always fighting like austerity and like
because they were trying to be like cut you out and just keep the STEM people in.
We had a president who openly admitted that he did not know what the purpose of the library was because he was an engineer. And I was like, oh jeez.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Have a guess. What's your best guess?
Well, you're just like, why do you need it anymore? You just have the internet for it. It's like, oh, okay.
All right, you scan everything in there then.
Yeah.
And provide us a place to study.
All right, so this is a question from Anarchy Guy. So prepare yourself. This is a question actually for you. So did you receive a portrait I sent you recently?
Possibly, yes. I may have done. I've received a few bits of fan art recently since VidCon. I've gotten a bit of an uptick. I'm sorry if I haven't acknowledged it. It's possible that I did. Thank you very much if you've sent me some fan art. That's really, really wonderful. I'll have a double check through my various streams and have a double check. As I said, it's all been kind of pedal to the metal here. But thank you so much if you sent me something. That's really wonderful.
Yeah, like when Anarchy Guy or Sketch draw something, I'm always just like, wow, you took that much time looking at my face. Like, okay.
Scutch, my son Scutch is so unbelievably talented. It was so cool to meet him for the first time at VidCon, and he actually gave me a pencil drawing that because he's not just good on computer, he can do it with his hands as well. He gave me a pencil drawing which I've treasured. It's really, really good.
He's so much fun in person.
He's great. I know, right? And he kind of. It's fun. There's that really good photo of him and me and Nat, and he kind of does look like he could be our son.
Yeah, he is like if anyone ever meets him, and it kind of makes sense with his drawings. He's the person who is like 100% invested in like the things that he thinks are interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
He,
He really. This is an odd phrase, but he looks with his eyes. As in, he actively looks like an artist. The way he looks at things and pays attention to them, you can sort of see that it's being reflected in his kind of artist's mind. Yeah, it's great.
He's an artist. And second question he had was, have you, or they have read, have you, or what's your favorite book that you've read recently?
Ooh,
really, you do a lot of monographs for your channel, so you must really chow them down.
Yeah, I guess. I did read. I did finish this one just the other day. It's Fred Turner's "From Counterculture." I'll hold it up here. From Counterculture to Cyberculture. It was recommended to me by a friend that I met at VidCon, and it's really, really good. It's kind of about how '60s counterculture came to inform the way the internet and early PCs were developed. So for my video, I'm playing on Elon Musk. This has been a major source because there's some concepts in here which I think can really apply to the kind of the figure of the tech daddy today, the kind of Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. I think it's a lot of carry for me, so that's really good. And at the moment, I'm reading a book called Perfect Me by a philosopher called Heather Widdows, which is about the beauty industry and ethics, which is kind of cool. More about kind of how beauty shapes what we understand ethics to be, rather than kind of the ethics of like animal testing or whatever. More about the theoretical than the practical ethics. And because I'm going to be doing a lot of air travel soon, I've got like 11-hour flight on Sunday. I've got a book about airports and like airport security and the philosophy of that, because I'm planning a video. I got really curious a while ago when I was in an airport. I was like, because I remember when they said you can't take liquids on a plane anymore, and they said it was going to be temporary. And so I know the question doesn't make sense, but I asked myself the question, when is security going to go back to normal? And then I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to do something about the philosophy of security and airports. And hopefully on Sunday, I'm going to like vlog some stuff in the airport and chop that into the video too. So that could be quite fun. So yeah, that's what I've been working on lately.
Yeah, we talked about that in a conversation at VidCon, and I remembered because then I accidentally like mentioned it briefly in a video, and then I was like, oh shit.
Oh, what?
I mentioned like I think in a video I mentioned about like how something that becomes normalized kind of just stays and it doesn't go back. There's no like this temporary thing. I cannot remember what context I said it in, but I was like, oh crap. But I didn't go into depth. I was just
it's fun.
Yeah. I actually have memories of from counterculture to cyberculture because it was on my comps list.
Oh,
so
great.
I have memories of that book.
Yeah, it's good fun. Yeah, I did enjoy it.
So my PhD that never finished was in the history of technology and computers.
Oh, right. So you're gonna be keeping me right on this Elon Musk video then.
Oh, maybe. I mean, it's one I can help out with that. That's for sure. This is actually the thing I'm working on right now, book wise. This name, I cannot wait to read it because I honestly have zero clue where this is going to go, but I got this as a review copy of a book.
Yeah.
Just look at this here. Sword and Scimitar
by Richard Ibrahim. Is that
Ibrahim? Yeah. 14 centuries of war between Islam and the West.
Right. Okay. Is that so? There's just from the title that can kind of go two ways. I think it's going to go one or two ways. It's either going to be an Edward Said or it's going to be a Douglas Murray. So which one is it?
It's from the author of the Al Qaeda Reader.
All right.
Which is so that's Raymond Ibrahim. I haven't researched him yet, but it's going to be a video that probably comes out in late August. Will be about this. But I think from just glancing at it, it's more of a military history, trying to examine the conflicts between It only goes until about the 17th century, so it's like.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like telling the story about how the Islamic world and the European world became opponents of each other and how their conflict worked until basically the Christians colonized the Middle East. Yeah,
became constructed as opponents of each other as well. Yeah. Have you read? There's a great history book that you'll probably know already, but it's by Leila Ahmed. It's called Women and Gender in Islam. It's like a history of women in Islam. It's really, really good. It's a great, it's a history, but it's also written specifically into like as a response to various myths about women in Islam today. So yeah, that's really class. I recommend.
I'm gonna write that one down real quick because
cool. Go for it.
I've read Lena Ahmed, but I haven't read that book.
Mm.
So because like I did my master's on Islamophobia, so
whoa, cool.
This is my jam. I was all about memory and the construction of history and 9/11 and the war on terror and Islamophobia, and
that sounds absolutely banging.
Yeah, would have been really cool. This was much more fun. Okay, this is something that comes up already. So like I have a lot of anarcho hyphen people in my audience for obvious reasons. So our anarcho fledgling has a question, and this is really good because this comes to like a conflict that I often have with the anarcho community.
Mm-hmm.
Your views on gun control. We want to ask what we both think about that.
I mean, yeah. I have an unusual history of firearms because we don't have them in my country. Well, obviously we do have them in my country, but we don't have a gun culture in the UK really at all. No one really has them, apart from the police in increasing numbers. But even then, that's a minority. But at the same time, I trained as an army cadet for 5 years, so I'm like fully firearms trained and know my way around one, and greatly enjoyed it at the time. But also have a complicated relationship with that whole kind of bit of my childhood anyway. So like I really don't feel like I'm in a position to offer any like practical solutions to any kind of like gun political problem in any country. The best I could offer would be like a moral hope of not having murders, which is kind of fairly obvious, I think.
Yeah.
Well, do you have guns in Canada?
We do. It's a lot more restrictive than in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a gun violence issue. It's just almost exclusively made of guns smuggled from the United States. So we have a lot of issues with guns coming up from the U.S. and causing issues here. But like for us, like for example, if you wanted to own a handgun, you have to like be on at least one government registry, and you have to have signs that you take it to the gun range once every 6 months in order to show that you're competent in using it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like a lot of controls like that. Then, you know, when the Tories are in charge, sometimes they try to strip back the legislation we have. But like, we used to have fairly lax gun control laws, and then we had a mass shooting in Montreal in 1989, and we really like clamped down after that.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Fair enough.
But like the thing that comes up, like I get stuff like what David's saying in chat here. Never disarm the proletariat.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
I have seen some people say like that if you're going to disarm people, like start with the police, and it's like, yeah, I see the point. To be fair, like,
I mean, like. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer that I'm comfortable with.
Actually, speaking of Canadian smuggling, do you know what I found out a while ago? That's quite interesting. So haggis, real genuine haggis, is apparently illegal in the United States because it contains lung, and for some reason you can do almost anything else in America, but you can't. God forbid you eat a lung, right?
You also can't have Kinder Surprises.
Yeah,
they're illegal.
Lungs and Kinder Surprises. You can get a gun, fine. Yeah, no worries. Fucking, I have guns up the wazoo, but you eat a chocolate egg or a lung, right? So apparently, but you can get haggis in Canada. So apparently, there's a load of like Scottish expats in the US who every year for Burns Night get like haggis smuggled across the Canadian border in ribs across the lakes at night, just smuggling in like sheep stomachs, so the Scottish people can have them for Burns Night, which I think is great. Like I think it's wonderful that. I want to see a film. What was that thing that Matthew McConaughey was in, where he was smuggling drugs? I forget that. Or like Tom Cruise film American Made, where he's like flying drugs. I want to see like a film about an illegal haggis smuggler. Yeah, that'd
be good. We're well known for like this is like a common thing where like there's something that's illegal in America but legal in Canada, and we smuggle it, like
Haggis.
like haggis, like Kinder Surprises, like Cuban cigars. During Prohibition, alcohol, where we actually banned alcohol, but we legalized. You'll find this fun. We had alcohol was illegal, but we were able to produce medicinal whiskey.
Of course.
And then we smuggled that into
this gin is medicinal. This is a medicinal lime.
Yeah, and then right now, actually, one of the things I'm working on with my new job has to do with shot spotter technology.
Shot as in shots, or
shot like with guns?
Oh, they're not
like,
kind of...
Yeah, it's like these microphones that you set up to detect gunfire.
Ooh.
And it can like triangulate where they are, and we're dealing with all the fact that like, well, this will normalize installing microphones all around the city. How good is that?
Yes, I can see that backfiring. That's a little bit. Wasn't that dealt with in the documentary The Dark Knight? Pretty sure that was a major part of that documentary.
But the thing is that Netflix. But the thing is that the executive director did a piece against this proposal that got into the big newspaper.
Right.
And the night when that was like printed and waiting to go out the next day, we actually on Sunday had a mass shooting.
Yeah.
With and it's a whole thing. It's been a very busy week.
Yeah, I bet. Shit.
Yeah, there was luckily only 2 fatalities, and one of them was the shooter, but still, it was pretty bad.
Wow.
All right, maybe we can cheer up with this little question.
Yeah, I tried to steer us somewhere cheery by talking about haggis, but
no,
definitely deflected that.
What's it called? My YouTube channel is sometimes like the Russian literature of education channels.
Yeah,
just
some Russian literature's well, it's not relentlessly
Russian
depressing.
Literature that's not relentlessly depressing.
Arda's not relentless. I don't know if I can show that because it's indecent, but Arda's not relentlessly depressing. It's pretty depressing in some places. The main character. Have you read Arda? I
don't think so. No.
Oh, it's really, really good. It's set on like a parallel Earth where it's been sort of it sort of diverges in the sort of late 1800s. So America and Russia are like one country, and yeah, culturally it's really, really different as well. But it's an incestuous love story. And in which the main character Van Veen is also just a horribly despicable human being, and it's kind of about like even the most horrible people can live incredibly passionate in ways, beautiful lives. So it's really good if you get the chance to check it out.
I think
absolutely filthy.
I have ADHD, and it makes reading really slow for me, and I need to find a way to read a lot more books because I am embarrassingly bad at just like taking the time to just chew through a good book. Yeah,
in fairness, like you can skip bits of Arda and you won't miss much because it's light on plot because there's whole chapters of it that are just like smut basically, but like really classy Russian smut. So you can
classy
just kind of
Russian smut.
Yeah.
There we go. That's the title. All right, this is a little bit more.
Somebody says, "Share the filth online, Ollie, you coward." Or maybe at some stage of the later live stream, I might do a dramatic reading of Arda.
Bit more Jim. So Christian Vibrecht wanted to ask, and this will be, I don't even know. If you played World of Warcraft, which race and class would you pick?
I don't know them, but
oh man,
it's the only time
I've fantasy fair.
Yeah, the only time I've ever done Dungeons and Dragons, we did it in Scotland, and really it was just an excuse to get smashed and eat pizza. But I played as a mage in that, and it was just ridiculously overpowered. So I'd probably go for mage. When I go Skyrim, I start with magic and then work out from there.
Oh,
I was playing some Skyrim recently actually because I got to go back to the north and I've got a copy of it, and I was having a great time. Skyrim and Assassin's Creed Black Flag, because I like my games, but I'm always so behind.
Yeah, I am the kind of person who like I buy one game maybe or two a year, and then we'll play them for like multiple years. So I need games that have long replay value. Now,
I was saving up for a Nintendo Switch because I really want Breath of the Wild, but I've spent my Switch money on on this holiday that I'm going on, and also getting into a film studio to make more videos. So I really wanted that as a holiday present, but I'm gonna have to save up for a bit longer, maybe for Christmas.
I'm gonna go with, I think that from what I remembered, I haven't played World of Warcraft in a very, very long time, but I think that they made a monk, like a martial artist class, and that dwarves, like the fantasy dwarves with the big beards, can play them, and that there's a specialization of those monks that are like focused on making beer. So I would be that.
Trappist monks, nice.
Trappist monks, Trappist beer dwarves. I mean,
well, there's an island near where I live in the north called Lindisfarne, where monks sort of brewed incredibly potent alcohol for centuries. Apparently, it's really, really good. Lindisfarne mead is well known.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like it. I wish we had booze history like that.
Do a video on it.
Yeah, I actually am planning. I actually have a Oktoberfest video that I plan on making where I'm very curious about how it will come out, because it is a video about the history of beer that is exclusively a gender reading on the production of beer. So it's like understanding gender through the history of beer.
That's really cool. I like that. I've got a cool video planned for October that I want to do. I really want to do something on witchcraft, because there's some fantastic philosophy about that. And I in my ideal brain, I would love for it to be a crossover with Nat and or Lindsay, but we'll see if I can get either of those.
Nat would pull off some sort of magical, like,
exactly. That's exactly That's why I thought of that. I was like, I know somebody. This is going to be right up her street. And
Harry, like they both go costume crazy.
Yeah, and I've got some costumes planned for future videos as well. Everyone's getting in on it. The theatrical, my Elon Musk video, I've created a character for that, which is quite fun. Or rather, already had a character lying around from drama school that I never got to use. So it's going to be fun.
You shave, you do your hair a little bit, you could probably pull off an Elon Musk.
Thanks. I'm not sure whether that's a compliment or not, but no, I'm not going to shave. I'm going to keep the beard.
I mean, what's it called? He's a pretty good-looking guy.
I guess, yeah. I mean, but the video is more. It's just because I'm wearing a tight black t-shirt, because it's the first thing I threw on. But the video is more kind of about Elon Musk, the myth, the character, than the man. The conceit I'm kind of going with is that Elon Musk is just a fictional character, and that he's actually just sort of a mascot. So that could be quite fun.
All right. What are your thoughts? This is from Doughboy DeVito, good old long-term fan of the channel. What are your guys' thoughts on the idea that networking is a capitalist concept that forces people to see their relationships as commodities? Ooh, that's a good one.
I guess, but people will have always done something that's kind of recognizably networking, but we just wouldn't have called it that. So I'm sure that in like Shakespeare's time, there were budding actors and writers who were like, "Well, man, I really want to break into the scene." It was like, well, you got to hang around, you got to meet people, Socializing as the bleed between the social and the professional. Certainly in my industry, and in both of my industries, the one I have and the one that I share with you, socializing is kind of important career opportunities vis-a-vis this chat we're having now.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess maybe it's always probably happened, but they just wouldn't have called it networking. So I don't know. Does it encourage people to see relationships as commodities? Maybe. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It was really interesting actually hanging out at VidCon with people, because some of the people I was hanging out with were just, I felt there was a really healthy relationship with the nature of the work we do. Because some people were saying, yeah, keep all the receipts when we go out to dinner. Like, we'll have a lovely time and it'll be great, and we'll all go to the pub or whatever. But keep the receipts, because it's a business expense. Like, because we can say this is a networking event, and it's like, well, that's kind of true. And that was just a sort of healthy, integrated part of it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think there's ways of doing networking sort of inorganically and horribly. And I know, like, being an actor, that's sometimes happens and it's horrible. And it's also really awkward when somebody's like trying to network with you inorganically. But there's ways of doing it that can be, I mean, as we saw at VidCon, like spectacularly good fun, where it becomes it's not like networking anymore. It's just about like developing a relationship with somebody that is also in a sort of semi-professional space. So I don't know. I see Doughboy's point, but I'm not sure it's that kind of simple.
I mean, nothing when you talk about marks and commodities is.
Yeah.
I think that if you're going with you think about networking, like networking has kind of come out of the increasing turning everybody into a entrepreneur, even when you're like in a company.
Yeah.
Your own future, like
yeah.
The intrapreneur as the new word.
The entrepreneur of the self, yeah.
Well, like the entrepreneur is like if you work in a big company and you want to be entrepreneurial about trying to get your way higher in the company.
Oh, an intrapreneur. Oh.
Yeah, it's a weird term, but I think like networking is also
it's a portmantologism.
Yeah.
It's a portmanteau and a neologism.
Oh boy.
Portmantologism is a portmantologism as well. That's why I love it.
Excellent. Oh man, that's like some Shakespearean level word.
Levels.
But yeah, like networking, like because it's also like part of this informal job market and like
deceptively informal is what they told me about the acting industry. They were like, beware, it's a deceptively informal industry. Yeah, it is a lot about kind of what you could call networking.
Which makes me think that it's like the system of the resumes and interviews is like broken apart or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all the jobs I've ever had, bar one, have been sort of non-traditional. I did have a job like doing temp office work for a while, and that was much more traditional, like apply and send in your resume and so on. But everything else I've had has been through that kind of informal. Even working in pubs and stuff, it's not been like a formal process. You sort of go in and do it, and then like through YouTube and acting as well. All the jobs I've had have been, yeah, the acting like audition is like the ultimate informal interview because it's so sort of concealed and nobody knows what's going on, in a beautiful, brilliant way, but still hazy.
I do find it kind of funny. I have a friend who's an actor in town here, and I find that the funny thing that comes out is that as you do it long enough, you start to develop this circle of people who all look kind of like you. And so there's like these people who all kind of look the same, but you're always in competition with each other. So it's like you have a whole bunch of like evil twins that you have to fight against.
Anyway, when you go to auditions, you start seeing the same people over and over again and be like, oh, okay, yeah, we're here again. Yeah, it's interesting. So the process of auditioning to get into drama school is really long. It can often take multiple years. And the first year I auditioned for drama school, I auditioned for like 12 different ones. And I saw on the audition circuit a lot of the same people again. I was like, oh, hey, like I saw you at Bristol. Like, did you hear back? Like, no, I didn't. I was like, oh, good. And some people were just like absolute stalwarts. I met people on the audition circuit. I met one guy at Oxford School of Drama who was like, yeah, this is my 7th year in a row auditioning. I was like, wow, you're determined, man. Yeah. So yeah, you do kind of develop a circle of doppelgangers.
Yeah. And what I was talking to his the actor friend of mine in town here, his partner, and she's gotten like at like a gathering or something, like accidentally tapped the wrong person on the shoulder and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, this is the good thing about the beard is that there's a lot of actors who are kind of like tall, broad-chested white guys in London, but there's some with that tall, broad-chested white guys with scruff. But there's not many with goatee. Goatee is like just a little bit distinctive, which is why I like it.
Well done. All right. That was a question that was in context of a conversation. There's people talking to each other in the chat, which is good.
Here's a cool one though. When Sir Frenomythic says, when you guys' YouTube businesses grows to the point where you'd normally start hiring employees, what would you do with your ownership of the means of production? And this is something I've been thinking about recently because I actually have recently hired someone. I had a research assistant on a kind of ad hoc basis. Do you know John? He goes by the Lit.Crit guy on Twitter. Big Twitter teacher, PhD here in the UK. Brilliant man. Pours a mean pint. And I hired him to be my research assistant. And I thought about that. I was like, this is kind of like I have an employee now. Legally, like if I wanted to like move to America, for instance, I could say I kind of own a small business. I'm sort of generously calling it that. But I thought, like, how am I going to do this? So I just, the way I dealt with it was I asked him how much he wanted to be paid, basically, and then just paid him that. and I said, this is how much like work I want. This is like the maximum I can pay you a month, and this is like what I kind of like. And so far we've done like one. He's helping me research this episode on airport security, and we've done like one round together so far, and I was really, really happy with it. So I'm hoping that I'll bring him on board for more stuff. So it is something I'm thinking about and like trying to negotiate actively, both negotiate like morally with myself and also literally negotiate with him. And because he's my friend, like I'd like to be able to pay him more. So yeah, it's interesting.
You can definitely, when you think in those kinds of ways, you can definitely see the perverse motivations that lead you to.
Yeah.
Oh, because like
I'm really no, go on.
Well, once you make that like decision to get your first employee, you're making a decision to make a significant cut to go forward.
Yeah. I'm really this is something I've been sort of relatively weighing up for a long time because I really want to get some PhilosophyTube t-shirts made, just because I think it would be wild. And I've been looking for so long to find a t-shirt dispensary who will guarantee me that they don't use sweatshop labor. And that's been surprisingly difficult to do. A lot of places have been like, it's like certified in this way, and I've been like, but I think I have now found one. So hopefully over the next month or two, I'm gonna commission my son Scutch to come up with some designs and hopefully start working on some t-shirts. But I know that we have a mutual friend who does her own t-shirt line very successfully, and I know she's kind of concerned about that as well, and donates all the profits from her like, which are pretty insubstantial, I think, because I don't think t-shirts are very so profitable. It's kind of more for the brand than anything else. She donates all of the profits and that to charity. So I know that it's something that a lot of us think about, and especially with regard to merchandise, it's been on my mind recently.
Yeah, I mean, being the anarcho something that I am, I often am like, well, if I had another employee, I would have to like probably do a situation where there'd be joint ownership of it or something. Which
yeah.
But honestly, like, I'm not exactly sure when that point would be passed and how it would work, because to me, it's still way further off. I'm still a little guy.
Me too, mate.
Okay. 255 AD wants to know, is there anything to the anti-Semitism accusations against good old jizya, or is it all right-wing manufactured outrage?
I honestly don't know. I couldn't comment. I don't follow the career of Jezza that closely. Hey, there's a cat in the background.
Yeah, that's Romeo.
Oh, what a great name.
Yeah.
Hello. That's a big kitty.
Yeah, we got him when he was a kid. Like, we adopted him when he was like a really small kitten, like a year old or so.
Yeah.
And he was really, really, really small. And then we got him, and like, once we got him, he started getting really, really hungry to the point where like we were feeding him like a normal cat amount of food, and he started like trying to get into like garbage cans, and like he just wanted to eat everything all the time. And so we just started upping his food, and he just turned into this giant cat.
It's huge. This absolute moggy unit.
Yeah.
Oh man, I really want a cat so much. I'd love that. My lease sadly doesn't allow pets, but yeah, I love one. My friend of mine has a 3-legged cat, which is just adorable.
Mine doesn't technically either, but there's a law in Ontario where you can't kick somebody out for having pets. So as long as you don't know until after you moved in.
That's a nice law.
Yeah.
So whoever put that in obviously has a lot of compassion.
You can't evict somebody for having pets in a building, but they can reject your application for saying you have pets. So
okay.
The general rule of thumb is to just say you don't have pets.
Yeah, and then just bring them in. I found it. Yeah. It's a stray.
Yeah.
Sweet. You've just got the one?
No, I've got another one, Phoebe, but and she's hiding in the corner as she does.
Oh.
She's the older one. That's the other thing. There's a huge age difference because he's like 4 and she's like 9, and so
I don't know how long cats live.
Around anywhere between 13 and 19 years, about.
Okay.
But I've had cats my whole life, so I'm very used to these things.
Super jealous.
Next one will be a dog.
Oh, yeah.
I have gotten that concession out of my wonderful spouse. All right. Did we lose track of the question? What was the question?
You might have done, yeah. I think it was about Jeremy Corbyn, and I was saying I honestly
Jeremy
don't.
Corbyn and anti-Semitism. I
honestly don't. I don't follow it closely enough. To be honest, I think at the same time though, like, if as leftists, oh hello, he's back again. He's determined to not let us talk about this, which is great. I think at the same time, like, as there's another cat just walked past my window as well. What the hell's going on? I think, as I was saying, as leftists, if we're talking about global systems of finance, if we're talking about being critical of capitalism, if we're talking about being critical of rich people, if we're talking about being critical of Israeli foreign policy, we're fools to ourselves if we don't think that at least some scumlords are going to use that as cover. So I've seen some people be like, "This is ridiculous. Like, there's no way there could ever be anti-Semitism on the left." It's like, well, like, at least surely you can grant, if you won't grant that some leftists can just be anti-Semitic because they're arseholes, which is perfectly possible, then you must surely grant that, like, it's possible for people who are, like, actually quite right wing to, again, we've come full circle, like, use counterculture as backlash.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, like, we're fools to ourselves if we don't think that doesn't go on sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that there's, like, a lot of people on the left who think that as long as you're a socialist, like, you can't, by definition, be sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, ableist, but, like, you totally can be.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it just becomes like a no true Scotsman thing, right?
Yeah, and, like, or, you know, I mean, as Twitter will teach me, there are leftists who advocate for, like, the mass murder of lots and lots of people, or at least apologize for it, or are apologists who've done that. Like, can't wait. My Holodomor video is going to happen someday, and it's gonna set fire to something.
That's going to be an interesting challenge for you, I guess, because you're going to have to do that in an honest way, but at the same time knowing that the right will want to jump on that and kind of make sure you don't give them, like, an inch of room to be like, aha, you see.
Because I wanted to do the Holodomor and I've wanted to do the Great Leap Forward, and those are important subjects to talk about, even important subjects to talk about in leftist space. Because I think that oftentimes, like, there's a growing constituency of people who, like, actively, like, make excuses for this stuff, and I think that socialists, if we are going to get, like, that public, this, like, have this moment that we seem to be having of spotlight and attention, we are going to need to, in a mature and good way, own up to the atrocities that were done in the name of Marx.
Like, at least have an answer, because people are going to bring it up, you know?
Yeah. And I think that we have to show that we're not afraid to, you know, say, like, yeah, this happened, because at the moment, there's a lot of people who will say, oh, like, this mass murder didn't happen. It's just all propaganda. And I find that a lot of, like, Stalin apologists about the Holodomor specifically go, like, they act very much like Armenian genocide deniers, where they'll at the same time say it didn't happen, but it's also good that it happened.
Yeah, well, I look forward to your video on it, because actually history is not particularly my strong suit, despite having an AS level in it. My history teacher just mainly showed us movies. When we studied the Vietnam War, he just showed us Platoon. So, yeah, I look forward to your videos on it.
That'd be great. Actually, I should draw attention to a YouTuber whom she's a really small-time history channel called A Long, Long Time Ago.
Oh, that's a great name for a channel.
Yeah, and she is doing, she's, like, probably, like, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And does videos specifically for a very certain curriculum, the British curriculum, like the standardized tests for history, the GCSE history C&P or something like that, whatever that means.
All right. Yeah. That's so, like, GCSEs you do when you're, like, 16. I'm not sure what the CNP means, but yeah, GCSEs are the exams you do when you're 16. And so in British school, I don't know how it is in Canada, but in British school, you in your final years of school, you only do, like, 3 subjects and you specialize, and those determine what universities you can get into. But at GCSE, when you're 16, you do a much broader range. You get some choice, but some stuff is still compulsory, like maths. And I think at my school, you had to do 1 foreign language as well. Did French, and was pretty terrible at it.
But it's really great to, like, do that. And I mean, like, you kind of were trying to do that too by hitting the philosophy curriculum and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I do think that hers is a channel that could be very, very successful in the future, but only
A
has
long, long
500
time ago.
subscribers. A long, long
Oh,
time ago.
nice.
It's a great
Nice.
name. The name's just a long, long time ago. Someone
Nice.
asked again in the chat. All right. Next question we have here is, what is the most ethical use of capital to help the left? We're just getting all the softballs today. Support unions, support political parties, start a co-op.
Do you mean capital technically, or do you mean money?
I think money.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, that's probably pretty contextual, isn't it? I really don't know.
Because it looks like we're getting a thunderstorm in a second.
Yeah, it's getting dark out here as well. I mean, as dark as it gets in the summer here in London, which is not nearly dark enough. When I used to live in Scotland, the sun used to go down at 4:30 in the afternoon. It was so good. It's just cold and dark all the time. I loved it. I don't know what the best use of money is to help the left. Yeah, probably contextual. Probably depends what kind of country you live in and what's going on, really.
I would say at least be cognizant of like that you can use money to help the left. Like, I think like
Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon's a good one, actually. Like, I'm surprised by how much, like, our revolutionary content is like being funded through just people.
Yeah, you and me both. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It's really interesting. Do you follow Casey Explosion on Twitter? Sloth
Yes.
Mom. Yeah, so she's been doing some really interesting stuff recently about crowdfunding and how you can use something that hadn't even occurred to me before I read her. She does great Twitter threads. For anybody who's interested in finding her, I'll post it in the chat now. Her handle. But she's been talking about how you can use crowdfunding and platforms like Patreon to make somebody appear more organically popular than they are. So you could, for instance, I don't know, if you were a right-wing political think tank and there was, for instance, some kind of public intellectual that you thought was really supportive of your ideas, you could give them a whole bunch of money through Patreon, but that would make it look like, because Patreon and crowdfunding has this air of like it's the masses, but actually there's nothing stopping like Coca-Cola from signing up to somebody's Patreon and giving them like $1,000 a month or whatever, or a more insidious group, even more insidious group than Coca-Cola. So that's very interesting. That's something that hadn't occurred to me before, that like crowdfunding can be infiltrated in that way.
Yeah, and I'm actually thinking of one of the things that I'm tasked to do is to try to see if I can set up a Patreon for a nonprofit for the CCPLA, so that I can like raise money for the video wing and self-justify its own existence, so that I can do the activist and education wing of the channel or of the network, and not like and reduce the costs and
yeah.
But yeah, I do think that to answer the question, like you said, like supporting unions, supporting political parties, starting a co-op, all of those can be good ways to support the left with money.
I might just get some lights for the background. Can you give me 2 minutes?
Sure. Yeah. I will talk to the audience.
Hold on. 2 minutes.
Hello, friends. Hello, chat friends. Yeah, we are totally gonna get a huge thunderstorm here. I knew that. What's your opinion on Fabians? I don't know what Fabians is. What do you think about Sweden? Sweden seems pretty cool. I want to go sometime, but like, I mean, their immigration policy is not good. And did a co-op community ever succeed? Yes. Yeah, there are things called, there are kibbutzes in Israel that actually are fairly successful. There is a cooperative town in Spain that acts on a socialist anarchist model that has been around for decades, and nobody seems to have complaints about it. There have been successful situations, but very more often they're like communes within a state. But yeah, there's not a lot of situation. I would love to go to Sweden. I just need to like get the money, because transatlantic flights are pricey.
You're telling me. Sorry, how did that come up?
Somebody, I have kind of like a right-wing-ish troll in here who asked if there's ever a situation where a co-op ever succeeded. And then someone asked if I had ever been to Sweden, and I was like, I'd like to go, or if I would be interested in going to Sweden. And he's like, please come to Sweden. I was like, oh, Sweden. That I wish I'm going to go halfway, and I'll compromise and go to Iceland. All right. Where are you all super excited or interested in anything that came out of Comic-Con this year?
Oh man, I haven't had time to follow Comic-Con. I know that some creators I follow were there, but I haven't really had much of a chance to check it out. What about you?
The announcements. I mean, there was the trailer for the Doctor Who that triggers the alt-right people.
The Doctor Who?
The new Doctor Who, the 13th.
Oh, yeah, Jodie Whittaker. Yeah. I've not seen
Jodie Whittaker's trailer came out. That seems to have gone really well.
I've not actually seriously watched Doctor Who since the Christopher Eccleston days, when they were like, well, if you're an alien, why are you from the North? And he goes, lots of planets have a North. I was like,
yeah.
I saw the Aquaman trailer. That was kind of I enjoyed Thor, so I'm pretty excited to see like Thor again, but wet.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of the trailers because I'm learning more and more that I am extremely culturally incompetent at cinema. Like, I do not watch enough movies.
Yeah.
I found out, like, I realized the other day, like, I think I only watch like 4 movies a year. That's bad.
Wow.
I need to watch more movies.
Wow. I guess, are they good though? Are those 4 movies you watch good?
No. They'll be like, like this year, I think, if I even have been to the theaters this year, I think the only movie I saw in theaters was Black Panther, and that was like 3 months after it came out.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
Because it cost me like $60 because I had to go to like Canadian Times Square to go to the closest theater to me.
Have you seen Hereditary?
I have not, but I have been recommended to see that movie by everybody who's ever seen it. So I
saw it in California. And I was it blew my mind. I cried. It was. I mean, in fact, I was an easy sell because I was already having a good day, and the film was like right up my street. But that's so good. I recommend it.
I have a complicated relationship with horror, but I've been told it's good enough that I should just like go for it anyway.
Yeah. It's more like uncomfortable than like
Yeah. I have a friend here who is really into horror, and I think he might get me into it for time.
Yeah.
Audible Anarchist wants to ask.
Hey, Audible Anarchist. I recognize you from Twitter.com.
Yeah. Do you think the revolution in Russia was a socialist revolution or a delayed bourgeoisie revolution like in France?
Wow, you come to the right place to ask a historian because, again...
I would probably say, I do think that actually that it was an attempt at a socialist revolution. It's just that they were very much stuck in many ways, like the issues that you see in Marx, like Marx does have some misunderstandings about how, like, I think that Marx doesn't understand Marxism in its full extent because he was just inventing the idea, and he had a very Victorian man's idea of how things worked. That's why things have developed since. I think that the Soviet Union was made in a...
That's why Sylvia Federici's Caliban and the Witch is such a really good expansion history book about witchcraft. It kind of expands on stuff that Marx missed out about the role of women.
Yeah. Because if you follow Marx like to the word, we would already be in a communist society. So we have to like figure out why that's not happening. There's a lot to go with that, but I do think that their attempt, and I do think that even in his own twisted way, that Joseph Stalin wanted to create a communist utopia like Marx intended. It's just that they came out of a very feudal, very totalitarian, like even authoritarian for like monarchy at that time society, and then as soon as they did such, they had the entire world trying, even before they became a country, to try and destroy their movement. Yeah.
Well, they say, don't they, that revolutions are like the laboratory experiments of Marxism, and Russia was like the first world historical revolution. So, like, yeah, you're never going to get it right on your first try.
Yeah, and I do think that there's like a lot, like there's some things that came from like the pre-communist ideas, things that like nation and the concepts of the like that really held them back. And like I think that one of the reasons the Soviet Union collapsed and the reason why it fell apart is because they treated non-Russian countries in their union like colonies. And what made them fall apart was not like the logical inconsistencies of communism. What made them fall apart is that like they treated countries like Poland as just like subsidiary colonies.
Forgot how to make friends.
Yeah. Thank you, Potion M. Being very excited. Yeah, so that's and France was an example of, well, I have to do more research because I think I'm going to do an 1848 rebellion video at some point, which is another like disaster. Like that's when like liberals and leftists first had their first falling out. Because all of the late 18th century rebellions were all like liberal ones, and then they got in power, and then they promptly decided to like not stop inequality. And so
yeah, we did that in 1649 with the English Revolution. Yeah.
Ooh. All right. If this stream very suddenly ends,
is there a cat like gnawing on the wires?
No, there is. I just saw like lightning. So.
Oh, all right. Do we want to? Should we wrap it up before?
No. It's all right. It's very unlikely to happen. I'm in a big city, so.
Otherwise, it'd just be me left alone.
Yeah. If it happens, it happens. We'll figure it out, and we'll just have
I just saw the flash.
Yeah. Be a very interesting end to the stream. Okay, so this one comes from a friend of mine called the Great Dutchman, who wanted to know. I get the best names. Do you think that the societal roles of girls, women, mother, the societal role of girl, woman, mother, grandmother, and the male equivalents can be seen as separate genders? If you do, what do you think of the effect on the idea of cisgender and the idea of the male and female gender is? So like I guess like to unpack that, like so like the whole like gender is a performance based on like a slot in society, sort of based on your biological assigned sex at Earth. And if like the different life stages also like because they change the performance, if that means that woman versus girl are two different
genders. Okay. I don't know. I guess like where is it useful for us to say that they're kind of multiple? Like what? Let's say for the sake of argument, we're like, yes, that's actually like two different genders. Then like then what? What really follows from that? Initially, I mean, just off the top of my head, off the top of my gin-addled head, I'm inclined to say that just because an actor's in two different scenes doesn't mean it's a different role. If you carry the performance through all the way, and that's even if we carry the performance stuff all the way through. In her book Whipping Girl, Julia Serrano has some interesting critiques of strict like Butlerian performativism, which I think are actually really cool. I talk about them in a really old video I did in the pre-beard days. It was just called "What Was Gender," and I think there are probably people who are more educated on YouTube and off to talk about gender than me.
Especially two white dudes talking about gender.
Bingo. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure why it would be kind of useful to split them up like that. But I mean, I guess, except insofar as it would draw our attention to the fact that within a single gender performance there can be many different roles and scenes, and that those can still be quite diverse. I guess maybe that would be one advantage. Oh, the lightning's again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very dramatic, and you've got the candles on your side, so like we've got like a gothic thing going on.
Yeah. God has joined the stream.
Yeah, someone said that Zeus disapproves of this stream.
Yikes.
Or that Indra and Thor are fighting in Toronto. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. I think that like that comes to the heart of like, because like gender itself, even like the study of gender, right? It's like people who study gender study it as trying to unpack an emergent phenomenon in order to diagnose and eventually treat this like this thing. And so like just like critical race studies, right? Like it's the studying of what race is in order to figure out how do we solve this racism thing that is
I see what you mean.
In our world.
Yeah.
I mean, that might have sounded a little post-gendery of me, but I do think, like, yeah, I do think I think that speaks a little bit more to the function of age is like its own thing, like its own category that hasn't been studied well enough.
Yeah. So I read this. Oh, I don't have a copy of it here. I read this. I had the good fortune to meet an anti-ageism activist by the name of Ashton Applewhite. There's a lot of alliterative A's in that sentence, but Ashton Applewhite. She wrote a book called "This Chair Rocks," which is about ageism, and it was really, really cool and really eye-opening. She talks about kind of what that person was highlighting in the question, like the way that the roles of people, especially women, can like change over their lifetime, and how like women over a certain age are just made invisible and so on, which I found really, really fascinating. And she made a really, really convincing case for. I don't think, certainly not in the leftist circles I read in, there's often not a lot of discussion of ageism, and she made a really, really convincing case for like, no, this needs to be a real priority. Especially, I see a lot of the memes of like baby boomers have like wrecked the economy, and it's like, well, a lot of the people who wrecked the economy were baby boomers, but actually, like, it's a very small minority of people who were within kind of capitalism who did that, and actually, a lot of boomers have been really badly hit by it, and could potentially be class allies in the struggle for a better world. So I found her analysis of ageism to be really, really good.
The other cat has arrived.
Hey! Oh, that's an enormous moggy as well. Look at the size of that fluffy boy.
This is Phoebe. The Phoebe, she's a girl.
Yeah, I know. I was using boy in the McElroy sense of referring to anything. That is an enormous unit of mog. Well done. Well done. Aww.
She's a very nice cat. She's very shy usually, but this is good.
Oh, what a sweetheart. Why did you go Romeo and Phoebe and not Romeo and Juliet?
I didn't. What's it called? Phoebe is an inheritance from when I moved in with my wife. So my wife met her before we moved in together. But then I took over all cat duties, which means that they now have bonded to me.
Aww.
And then we got Romeo a little bit later, and he came pre-named.
Oh, sweet.
But yeah, so like age.
Yeah.
I do think that, oh man, you really hit me there, because I do have a lot of age resentment about like the whole baby boomers ruining the economy thing. Mostly it's an empathy gap, because there's a lot of well-off baby boomers who don't understand what's going on, and like.
But then equally, you know, I've met some baby boomers and older people than that at like protests and stuff who really get it, who are kind of keen and on it, and have good politics. So yeah, I don't know. I know that age can correlate with class, but I think sometimes a lot of people, including me, are kind of guilty of oversimplifying it a little bit. Yeah, there could be like a lot more class allies. And when I read Ashton's book, it came as quite an opportune moment for me as well, because my grandmother at the time was 95 and on her way out, and it was interesting to see how the family reacted to that and how she processed that as well. So yeah, that book really hit me. I recommend it if you can get hold of a copy. It's quite tough to get hold of, I think, but
sounds good. So I think that like when we went to get to the bottom of Great Dutchman's question, I guess like I think that what you're seeing more is a form of intersection that we're just not talking enough about.
Yeah, and like an axis of intersectionality that we don't talk about all that much.
All right, so oh yeah, this was a fight that they were having in chat. Marxism, Islamophobia. How does that exist? To answer the question, it was a. What? It was a. I said I did a master's in Islamophobia, and I guess.
Oh yeah.
They interpreted that as I did a master's degree in Islamophobia, but it was a master's.
You're a master of Islamophobia. You're really, really good at it. Yeah.
It was a master's degree in American Studies that my thesis was on Islamophobia.
That's on Islamophobia.
Someone wants to know if you've read Dr. Bones's book.
I have not, unless Dr. Bones sounds like a porn nickname for an academic. So I've not read Dr. Bones' book unless they wrote it under a different name.
Yeah. Can you register as a business person or something? That might be the most mutualistic legalism I can think of. I think that's like
I don't know. I think so. I know a couple of our friends who are YouTubers that are registered as businesses. I should probably.
I think Lindsay's a business at this point.
Yeah.
YouTubers who are like they are businesses. Like if you like, there's a lot of YouTube channels that look like it's a person, but like under the hood, it's basically a business at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, that's and there's also some who just like do it because it makes good financial sense as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know what the advantages would be or not. I should maybe talk to an accountant about that. I think.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I got an accountant a while ago when I graduated drama school, because the last thing they tell you when you graduate drama school is get an accountant, because you're gonna be, you're gonna have like 10 different jobs in a year, and you're gonna need someone to help you out. And I got one, and my accountant actually wrote to me a couple of months ago and was like, yeah, my son is 16 and he really wants to be a YouTuber. Can you like give him any advice? I was like, yeah, sure, man. And I had, yeah, don't. And I was like, I don't really know how to put this, but like, how do you say nicely, make sure you don't become a Nazi? Like, make sure you don't make stuff that Nazis can use as a platform. Like, I didn't really know how to put that, but I was just like, just be aware that this can happen.
Yep. There was an educational conference before VidCon last year.
Yes, and I told you at VidCon I really wanted to go, and I got the invite to it literally like 2 hours after I booked my plane tickets. I was like, I really want to go to this, and it sounds like everyone had a blast, but it would have cost me £1,000 to go. I was like, I'm already like $1,000 down in flights from VidCon. So next year I'll be there. Yeah, next year, VidCon next year is going to be a blast.
But I
this time I'm going to do it right. This time I'm going to do it right, because on that third day of VidCon, I was pretty hungover, and I got out of bed early to go to a panel, and the panel was all right. It just like wasn't spellbinding, and I was sitting there just like hungover in the room, just being like, I could have stayed in bed. Why am I here? Why am I here? I shouldn't have come to this. And the best bits of VidCon were after like 3 days when we kind of sacked off the conference and just went and had fun. So yeah. And next year, EduCon, I want to be there.
I ran a panel on controversial subjects, and a bunch of people from YouTube were actually there, and it was a lot of it like ended up being like me and a few other people, one of them being Hank Green, like basically saying like, YouTube, get on this shit and get on these Nazis, like, please.
Yeah. How did they react to that?
They were responded in like we will listen to your feedback earnestly, and we are gonna like, we're here to listen to you.
Trade union.
That would have been fun. Yeah. All right. So Audible Anarchist comes back with the question: Can we get the name of the company? There are probably a lot of us who'd like to hire them for merch. Oh,
the name of the company that I'm doing, that I'm going to do my t-shirts through.
Yeah.
When I get it sorted, I don't want to come out and like say who it is now before I've got it all sorted. And it'll be a little while, because I'm like pretty broke at the moment, so I need to save up in order to pay an artist, and then to pay the t-shirts. But if and when I get t-shirts, which I will hope is by the end of the year, then you'll find out.
Yeah, because if you can find a company that's like cool with not like that doesn't have slavery in any part of its process, then I think that would be.
To be fair, to a certain degree, I've got to just trust them, because the guy was like, I've been to the factories where we have our clothes made, and they're in America, and I've seen them, and I've vouched for the working conditions, and like he could be blowing smoke up my ass, but at some stage you've just got to trust people, unfortunately.
All right, Fra Farewell. This is a good one too. What would you name your theoretical cat?
Oh, me? Oh, I've decided this long ago, right? So I would get a Maine Coon named Satsuki Kiryuin, which is a Kill La Kill reference for anybody who is a big nerd like me. And I would get a Sphinx cat called Mephistopheles.
Oh man.
Yeah. Because
I forgot you're a theater guy.
Yeah. Mephistopheles is a great name for a Sphinx cat. I went to a cat cafe in Edinburgh once, and there was a Sphinx that just sat on my shoulder the whole time, and I was like, yes, this is what I want.
Sphinxes are like a mighty
evil-looking Gollum cat.
I love it.
And they're so cuddly because they're cold all the time, which is great.
I kind of wanted to go with Chairman Meow at one point, but no.
Nice.
All right. Thoughts on this? There is going to someday be a tanky school shooter, and the discourse, especially on leftist online spaces, is going to be terrible.
I hope not.
Yeah,
what other thoughts can I have on that, really? Like, I hope that doesn't happen.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, certain elements of the discourse are always terrible, aren't they? This is kind of like what we were talking about with the Jeremy Corbyn question, is that, like, we're fools to ourselves if we think that people who call themselves comrades can't not only just make mistakes, but also just be terrible. But yeah, who knows? I hope we never find out.
Yeah, me neither. Because but I think that it's like speaking to like the idea that like we need to have answers for like the atrocities of the authoritarian left.
Like be ready to because they'll use it against us. Yeah, fair enough. I see. Somebody in the chat says they have a Maine Coon, and I'm really jealous. Dawn Arnett says they've got a massive. I'm so jealous. I want a big cuddly cat.
Didn't a Republican get shot by a Bernie bro last year? That did happen. I don't know if he was I guess really? He was a Bernie Sanders supporter, but also he was supporting a whole bunch of people. He was, I think, he was just a very political person. I don't know the details of that though. But yeah, he did campaign for Bernie Sanders. And do you remember that there was like a shooting of Republicans at like a baseball game? I
don't remember that, unfortunately. No, I don't tend to follow the American news that much.
It was the Republican like almost like the Republican politicians were having like a congressional baseball league, and there was like one congressman who was shot.
Wow.
And yeah, that is not great. Don't shoot people. It's bad for you and your cause. And right now, anytime a shooting happens, they're going to scour your social media to find out what political ideology you did it for, because that's the only thing that people understand now. Okay. So, suppose humanity somehow lost all of our scientific and philosophical knowledge and we had to redo civilization from scratch. Do you think we'd end up recreating capitalism?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. There's probably a lot of stuff that we wouldn't invent if we had a do-over. I don't know.
It's a good.
It's kind of an alternative history, isn't it?
Well, like, yeah. If you go with like Marx's, like some of the ways that Marx would say is that like capitalism is like the emergent outgrowth of like the early modern, like early industrial economy. Like some of the people would say, like if you want to go super Marxist, would be like, but it like our social relationships, the way society works is a reflection of how the economy works. And that the economy is a reflection of the means of production, like the ways that we make things, and that there's a emergent change that happens over time, and that communism is just the end result of like the post-scarcity economy. Which like
it would be a really cool idea for a TV show. Actually, it would be like everyone wakes up and the world's the same, but nobody kind of remembers what jobs or anything are. No one kind of knows. Everyone still has language and so on. And there'll be a whole lot of stuff that like I imagine would be quite mysterious if you didn't know what it was for. Like if you just found a call center, you'd be like, huh, what? Or like, would it occur to you to invent landlords? Because if everyone just woke up tomorrow, then like I would probably assume that this house was mine. This flat was mine. I'd be like, oh, I live here. Like, would it occur to you like to invent the idea that you have to pay somebody else? Would it occur to you to invent like marriage? There'd be a bunch of people walking around with like rings on, being like, why do we all have these? Like, why other people don't? Like,
that would actually be really cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, you could explore so many stories with that.
That'd be good fun.
Yeah.
Apparently people are saying that the stream is super buffering. It might be that the storm is knackering it on your end, so it might be a good time to wind up.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, I think the storm passed, but yeah, we didn't get to so many questions. I'm so sorry, everybody. I tried my best. I literally tried to just like take everyone's questions and do them in chronological order to be as fair as possible. I do know that it is late for you, and I don't want to hold you up.
No, that's all right. It's cool. I mean, I'm sweating like a pig here because it's like 32 degrees, so I need to jump in the shower at some stage. But I can stick around for a little bit.
All right. Do you want to like go until like until the end of the hour, and that's like a even 2 hours?
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, good thing.
All right.
What are some other questions we've got?
Okay, so do you support the Rohingya Kurdish rebels even if they're used as an American proxy in the Syrian civil war? So, like, have you heard of it?
Your subscribers have some properly deep questions. Mine are like, what have you had for breakfast?
Oh, man.
I have absolutely no idea what the situation is there at all.
So the Rohingya people, the Rohingya is like this region of Kurds who live in Syria.
Yeah.
And they are a group that has not been treated super great, as you know, the story of Kurds in any country because of the whole way that their borders have been broken up. But once the Syrian civil war started, they took the opportunity to make this like very libertarian leftist compound that's very multi-ethnic and multi-religious and has like female soldiers and stuff like that. And it's like really cool. But then on top of that, like the US is giving them, or was, I think Trump stopped. It was like Obama era. They were getting a lot of support from the US during the Syrian civil war to fight ISIS. And so they were like a proxy, but they were also this like bold like experiment in like this leftist commune living. Oh, no, Rojava, not oh, yeah. I'm getting my okay. The person had it because like, yeah, Rojava is the region in Syria. The Rohingya are an ethnic minority in Myanmar that are Muslims who are being genocidally like attacked by Buddhists.
Wow.
But I got confused because somebody said because the question was Rohingya Kurdish rebels, which I'm like, okay, I got my R words confused. Sorry about that.
No worries.
But let's go. Okay, let's focus on Rojava then.
Yeah, honestly, like I know this is I'm learning new things. I know nothing about it. Probably be irresponsible for me to comment. I think.
All right. I want to do some more stuff that we can both talk about. What's your opinion on Fabians? Do you know Fabians? I have never heard this word.
Are they a band? Like what? Well, your subscribers are absolutely great. They're really coming in with the hard hitting questions here.
It's true. They go hardcore on us. I never get like, yeah, like what's your favorite flavor of crisp?
Cheese and onion, obviously.
Small talk. It's a reference.
Cheese and onion.
What's it called? To Mitchell and Webb.
All right.
Big talk. Like, oh man, it's like have you ever seen that?
I don't think I have. No, I think Mitchell and Webb. So the thing is, like, all the way through university, I didn't have a TV. So, and I still don't. I haven't had a TV in like 6 years. So I tend to be like very behind on anything. People are like, have you seen Love Island? I'm like, I have not.
Okay. There's a skit called they do called Big Talk, where it's supposed to be like this this kind of like a British talk show where they have the boffins come in and give their opinion on the issues of the day. Except the guy who runs it is not super smart, but he's extraordinarily practical.
Yeah.
And so he has like, how do we deal with famine in Africa? And they'll be like, well, you know, we could like, then like the experts are going to say like some like non-committal thing, like we need to find ways to improve education in the region. He's like, how the hell are we going to do that? And it's like, well, I guess we could like try to make some schools. Alrighty, let's get a whole bunch of schools on a ship. How much is that going to cost? And they're like, I don't know, like 20 billion pounds. Oh no, that's a huge amount of money. And he like goes into his wallet and he's like looking through like, how much, all right, I've got like a mortgage that I could take out like 200,000. Like let's put on some coffee. We're going to work on this all night. And it's like so great because like there's so many like of those like high concept talk shows where like they just talk about the problems and they have absolutely nothing productive.
Kind of vague, yeah, the joke is that he's actually trying to solve it. That's quite cool.
If you ever, I think you might find them on YouTube. Like Big Talk is the name of it.
Apparently, there's going to be a Swedish version of Love Island, according to the chat.
What's Love Island?
It's a reality TV show here in the UK where I've not actually ever seen it, but I think they just get a bunch of attractive people and put them on an island and wait for them to shag, and possibly people get voted out or something. I expect. It's kind of. Do you know Big Brother? Do you have that in Canada?
Yeah, I know that. I think it started in America, and then the British went crazy with it.
Yeah, I think it's in a similar vein. But somebody in the chat correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm bad at I know that the Brits really love reality TV.
Yeah, for some reason we go gaga for it. Probably because it's cheap to make, and we don't have like big TV budgets over here. So in the US, if they do like a series of a show, it'll be like 24 episodes. Over here, if a show gets a series, then it'll be 6 episodes because the TV budgets are really tiny.
Mm-hmm. But you have to pay taxes for your television.
What?
There's sometimes Tories complain about that you have to pay a fee for activating your television or something to pay for the BBC.
Oh yeah, there's the license fee, but it pays for the BBC. Actually, the the TV licensing authority in the UK are really, really zealous, right? So when I moved into this flat like a couple of years ago, the guy who was here before me was obviously illegally watching television because I got a whole bunch of letters saying you've been illegally watching television. I was like, I've just arrived here. This has nothing to do with me. And what you do is if you don't own a TV and you don't watch anything live, you don't have to pay the license fee. So you go online and you declare, I officially say that I don't need this, and if I do need it, I'm lying. Then you can kill me or whatever. And I went online and I declare it, and then they say, okay, cool. And then they kept sending these letters, and I declared it 3 times, and eventually they sent someone to the house. And the guy was like, look, I'm from the TV Licensing Authority. And I was like, yeah, look, here are the 3 emails where the TV Licensing Authority has said, I'm not him, I don't need this. And he was like, well, I have to come in order to verify that you don't own a TV. And I was like, no, you're not coming in my flat. Understand, I am not in TV land. I am not a citizen of TV land. You have no power over me. You're not a police officer. You are not allowed to come in this house. And he was like, why not? And I was like, oh. So I sat on the doorstep and I explained to him the Foucauldian notion that surveillance is a power relation. And I was like, you have no power over me. You have no right to surveil me at all. And he was like, okay, fine. And he went away.
Everything's a prison.
Yeah, but then he said, fine, I'm just going to have to come back. And I was like, then I'm going to tell you the same thing in 2 months, right? So 2 months later, he came back. And he was like, yeah, I'm from the TV Licensing Authority. I was like, do you remember me? Do you remember the talk we had about Foucault? And he went, oh, yeah, I remember you, yeah. Yeah, he just left.
Somebody described Foucault and used The Simpsons in the best way possible. Do you remember Jasper describing how everything was going to get punished with a paddling?
Yes,
and so it's just so he was just his thing is society, that's a prison. School, that's a prison. Prison, you better believe that's a prison.
Better believe that's a prison.
It's
Discipline and Punish is a really good book there.
That was another one of my comps books.
I
had a fun comps list. All right. I think that. Oh, so there. Okay. Another question about Fabians. It's apparently some brand of socialism I don't understand.
All right.
Sir Zhao wants to know what we think about Sweden.
Never been to Sweden. I hear it's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been, but I've heard it's really cool. I don't think I've even ever met anyone from Sweden. No, I've never really been to that northernmost bit of Europe. I've been to Germany and France and the Netherlands and Poland and Russia and a few other places in Europe, and Asia, but I've never actually been that far north. I'd like to. I've got a friend in Norway who I should probably go and visit at some point. But yeah, other than that, but shout out to you if you're watching in Sweden.
Yeah. Sir Zhao Zhao's a channel regular. I have only been to Europe once, and I only went to 2 countries. And
yeah, where'd you go?
I did Paris for 4 days, and I did London for 10 days. And on the London, or when I was in Paris, I also went to Chout, and then when I was in London, I also went to wherever Stonehenge is.
Salisbury Plain. Yeah.
Plain.
But no, I learned to skydive over Salisbury Plain. It was good.
So I did those. Did those, and I haven't been back since because flights cost lots of money.
Yes, they do. Yeah. I've never been to Washington DC. Actually, I've never been, so it's gonna be good fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Are there any resources for keeping up with current anarchist projects? I actually don't know that one. I'm not.
Follow Bad Mouse on Twitter. He'll tell you about any cool anarchist projects going down in Bristol, at least.
But he swore off his anarchism.
Did he?
I think like a long time ago, like when he like, I don't know for sure, but like
he still works in that anarchist bookstore, though, doesn't he?
Maybe, I'm not sure. He just said he's like not an anarchist in a video before he went on his. I don't know.
He's still cool though. He's still a comrade. He'll tell you what's going on.
I have only met him. I've only met proxies. Like I've met. I've hung out with Mexi, who's another Toronto-based YouTuber, and she's met him. So that's all.
Cool. Yeah, he's cool. We met up in Bristol a while ago. I got asked to sit on a panel for some students at Bristol and took the opportunity to have a pint with old Dave. He's a really cool guy. And then he came up to London for May Day and slept on my couch in there, the world's ugliest couch. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
I gave him a book on Venezuela that I don't think I ever got back.
Have you hung out with?
You can keep it, Dave, if you're watching.
Libertarian Socialist Rants.
I haven't, and have also not had the time to check out their channel, but I keep seeing it crop up.
Because it's, I mean, all right, if this is the selling point, it is anarchist philosophy and politics done by an angry Scottish man.
Okay, I'm sold.
Yeah, that's the slug line. All right. Doughboy DeVito says, Coca-Cola is so sleazy. They definitely have shooters. Hell, they've paid for death squads to get rid of union leaders, right? Yes, they have.
I heard that. Yeah.
In South America, they have bought strike breakers like that before. All right.
Tim Van Ryn says, I am Dutch in Dutchland, in the Netherlands. Cool. Shout out to you, Tim Van Ryn. I was in the Netherlands just a while ago giving a lecture. It's good fun.
We got Emperor Tiger Star in the chat, who's a buddy of mine.
Cool.
I do the podcast with. He really likes your stuff, I think. He was trying to get me to connect you two at some point. Because he's got a pretty he's a big history channel. It's bigger than mine.
Nice. Emperor Tiger Star is asking me, have you ever read Sophie's World? No, I haven't actually. People told me that it's a great philosophy fictional novel, but I have my reading list of books that I like for the show and that I read as research for the show, and I don't really have a lot of time to read anything else, which is why come September, me and H Bomber Guy are going to be getting a PO box, like a joint PO box, so you can be able to send us mail. And I'm going to say to people, like, please don't send me books unless they're on my wish list, because otherwise I just won't read them. Otherwise people will be like, people have asked me a lot over the years, like, can I send you my thing that I wrote, my book that I wrote and published myself? And I'm like, I'm sorry if I don't have time to read them all. So, but yeah, me and H Bomb, we're going to get a PO box in September when I move to my new flat. And people can send us all kinds of stuff. I think people want to send him various like indecent hoodies that he can't wear in public as a joke. So that'll be funny. Have that all delivered to my flat.
I think I did not know he was London adjacent.
He's not. I think he's in. I don't know exactly where he is, but I think somebody said he's in like the mountains in northern Wales. He's in some like really isolated sort of cabin somewhere. He just lives in a shed in the woods. He's like a cryptid.
Yeah, there's actually like.
But he's coming to London soon, and I think hopefully, I think it's going to be close. But I think the dates that we're both in London might cross over. So hopefully, I can grab a pint with old Harry.
I had it's a whole thing with like. In the Americas, we like have no concept that there's actually still nature in Europe, and so like I had a friend. Yeah. I had a roommate who, like, he said he worked at a campground for like a park, like a forestry park or something, and I was like, wait, they have those in Europe? People can go camping in Europe? Like what?
Oh yeah. I'm 2 minutes from the forest. It's just literally just outside my window.
So you got rid of them all? No.
Most of them, but especially if you go to the north, there's still a lot of wild areas. But yeah, Harry's in the woods somewhere, being hunted by the government.
You guys know Tiger Star?
Probably trying to escape from the TV licensing authority.
Yeah, he didn't pay for some BBC a while back, and he's been hiding.
Yeah, trying to hunt him down. He watched half an episode of Blue Planet, and now they're after him.
It's changed his name and everything. All right, would you like to have seen something that I don't know this? Okay, there's some questions about Swedish politics. Fun. Why were the early Marxists convinced the social revolution would start in Germany? Because it was, at that point, one of the most industrialized countries on earth. And Marx always suspected that if you think about the way Marx thinks about technology and when revolution would happen, he always thought that it would happen in the most industrialized countries. So he thought that it was going to be Britain, Germany, or the United States. That was going to be the place where communism happened.
Socialism was really big in Germany for a while, wasn't it? Because it was the second biggest political party, I think, for a while. Which is why when Hitler and his goons came on, they were really worried about socialists.
Yep.
And they teamed up with a lot of liberals in order to get rid of them.
Yeah, they never really talked about the people like the Dinesh D'Souza types. Now, we point out that those National Socialists killed all the socialists.
Yeah, there's a reason the Martin Niemöller poem starts with "First they came for the socialists." It's like, yeah, because they did, mate.
Yeah. What do you think of the Kronos complex? I don't know the Kronos complex.
Nor do I. Is that where you eat your own children? Is that kind of the Kronos like in Greek mythology?
I don't know.
Kronos was the guy who ate his own. Yeah. He eats his own. He eats because all the gods are babies. And
okay.
For some reason, Kronos eats them, and then the last one is Zeus, and then his wife gives him like a stone instead, and he just doesn't notice the difference and eats it, and then sicks them all back up.
Yeah, I'm understanding this now. It's this is where we're at the part where we were talking about generations, and this question came up because the Kronos complex, I imagine, is something about a generation's desire to destroy the generation after it.
To destroy its own offspring, right.
And so, like, because we were talking about baby boomers and, like, the...
Yeah, and ageism and, deduction, nice. You've done it again, Holmes.
Which generation is Bernie? Bernie's a baby boomer. He was born in 1947, I want to say.
There you go.
So, yeah. What do you think about Clement Attlee?
I have almost never thought about Clement Attlee, so not a lot is the answer.
Who's Clement Attlee? I know he's a British politician, but
former prime minister, I think. I want to say I'm embarrassing myself with my lack of historical knowledge about my own country, but I'm doing a quick bit of Google foo. He was Labour prime minister from 1945 to 1951. There you go.
Yes, he's in The Crown. I remember him in The Crown.
Right, is that good?
Yeah, it's good. It's a really good snapshot of like the royal family trying to cling on to being relevant in the time when like their entire like relevance in the world is collapsing. Like after World War II, like they have like no things anymore. And it's like 20-something Elizabeth II trying to like navigate this world.
Yep.
What's his name? John Lithgow plays Winston Churchill.
I love a bit of John Lithgow. Lord Farquaad.
Yep. He does.
I'd love it if he did Churchill as Farquaad. That'd be great.
Yeah, they do a really good video on, or they do a really good episode on the London fog, which was a really interesting incident.
Yeah.
And they also do an episode that's on, and this is really cool. So there's a time when somebody made like this portrait of Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
That Winston Churchill, like it was like proudly like put up. There was a whole event about it. And then Winston Churchill hated this portrait. And there's only a few surviving photos of the portrait, but apparently it depicts him as like, it's him
just
like
nude.
No,
just totally nude.
Kind of. It's him. He like it was like one of those portraits like where the guys like they spent a lot of time together and he worked on the portrait with him and like went to his house and like they had a relationship and it showed him as like vulnerable and like as an old man. Like it's Winston Churchill like right before he's done being prime minister for the second time.
Right.
And it's like him like it's him like as like he's just like weathered like all of this history in his life and he really didn't like it and apparently he destroyed it. But they did a whole episode about it, which is really cool.
There's still a statue of him outside Parliament.
The best episodes of The Crown are when like they take these really cool events in British history at that period and kind of show it going through Buckingham Palace. Like they do a lot on how she got like super cut out of like the Suez Canal crisis and like everything like that. So that part's really cool.
Nice.
And next season they're like aging her up so they can do like the 60s and the 70s, and she's going to be played by Olivia Colman. And Olivia Colman's great.
I do love Olivia Colman. She's a bloody good actor. She's one of my best. She grafted as well. She started out in comedy. She did a series called Look Around You, which was kind of a sort of middle tier in terms of like how big it got. British comedy. She was pretty excellent in that. Sweet.
She's in Mitchell and Webb as well.
Yeah.
Whenever I think almost every episode of that is on YouTube, so you'll have a fun time whenever you get through it. I think you're like liking brainy things, but also liking absurd and silly things. I think you'll really like that show. Good. All right.
Right. Should we take a last couple and wrap up?
Yeah. I'm gonna stop taking more questions. So let's see. Love the videos. Massive fan of Step Back History. The recent. Oh, yeah, that's just a shout out to me. Okay, thanks.
Emperor Tiger Star says, "Do you think numbers exist in nature?" I've not thought about it in a while, but no, not really. They're kind of a useful metaphor, I think.
Yeah. Oh man, I did a philosophy. I used to run a like campus radio show, and I interviewed a philosophy of math.
Yeah.
And the interview I did with the philosophy of math person, I got so. It was like one of my first interviews too, and it was just so hard to understand what was going on. I was so lost.
Yeah, I think PBS Idea Channel did an amazing video a few years ago on whether numbers exist that I thought was really, really good.
The weird part is that it's probably not. Numbers are a social construct. That'll set the internet on fire. All right, shooting at political personalities. Is this the 1880s all over again? Oh yeah, okay. We were talking about silly questions, and someone asked what our favorite pizza toppings are.
It's got to be. Usually, we have a thing. I don't know if you have this in the North American continent. Actually, whenever you go to a pizzeria in the UK, there's always one that's called like American Hot, which is always just like pepperoni and chilies. I just get that. It's delicious. I don't know. Probably in America. In America, they probably just call it hot.
I don't even know if they have that. We have one that's called Canadian. That's like mushrooms and pepperoni and bacon. And I was like, oh, that's good. I like mushrooms. Mushrooms, I think, are my favorite thing out of pizza.
Oh, why would you? Oh no, they're saprophytes. They're made of poo. Why would you eat them? When I've eaten every animal and every plant, then I'll move on to the kingdom of fungi. Till then, they're made of poo and dead stuff. Why would you eat that?
I love mushrooms.
They also taste really bad.
I hate a lot of foods that everybody loves, and I get a pariah for that. And I also like a lot of foods that everybody hates, and I get a pariah for that because I hate onions.
Whoa, really?
But I like mushrooms and I like olives.
Olives are great. He's going against olives.
I don't know.
Farewell in the chat says, I miss Mike Rugnetta. For those of you who don't know, Mike used to present a brilliant show on YouTube called PBS Idea Channel, which was a major inspiration for me when I started out. All the videos for PBS Idea Channel are still there. Mike's like he's not dead, right? He's still around. He's still creating content as well. If you weren't aware, Mike runs a really good podcast called Reasonably Sound, which is all about like the history of audio. Yeah. So go and check that out because it's bloody brilliant.
And also, he works for Crash Course still.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Somebody says pineapple on pizza. Honestly, I'm fine with it. I like pineapple. There wasn't a lot of pineapple in my life, and then I went to Disneyland and had a Dole Whip and learned all about the history of the Dole Corporation. And now I guzzle pineapples like a legend. So
yeah, pineapple's so good. All right, last question, and I think this is a fun one. How about a Lord of the Flies reality show?
I'm sure that's been. Wait,
Survivor, isn't it?
Yeah, that exists. This is called Survivor.
And like the mechanics of it, like actively are trying to emphasize the Lord of the Flies of it.
Lord of the Flies-ness, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Olly, for coming and talk with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, man.
And for everybody else who hasn't heard of him, this is Olly from PhilosophyTube, which is a great YouTube channel talking about philosophy. Now it's going to be twice a month, starting probably in August, right?
So this Friday is the first Friday off I'm going to have in a while, and then 3rd of August, Friday the 3rd of August is when the New Look show launches, and the first episode, I've not decided on a title yet, maybe you can help me out, but it's about like self-hatred and split mind theory, and I was thinking about just calling it like, why do I hate myself? I don't know, that might be a bit on the nose, but we'll see. That's going to be my first relaunch of the new Look.
Very, very cool. And of course, the biggest thanks goes to, there's 44 people here. Like, thank you guys so much for being a subscriber to Step Back. Like, the reason I get to my entire life is based around art and creating video and doing like things that I actually love with my life. And like even the job and everything is because you guys have come out and supported the kind of work I've done. And I really appreciate that you guys are doing this. And that's the whole point of this monthly series. I really want to thank you guys for having such a positive influence on my life.
And thank you for being such a wonderful audience to stream for as well, and for your kind of great hard-hitting questions.
Yeah. Nobody gets off easy here.
I do so many streams where it's lovely and wonderful and very relaxing, just like cooking and so on. I'm probably going to be doing a few like very relaxed streams in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it's nice to do one every now and then that's like hardcore.
Yeah. Although when Natalie was on here, we had talks about science fiction or what leftist the golden one would be like. How you'd be obsessed with science fiction instead of fantasy and like.
What do you mean? What would leftist the golden one be like? I'm right here, man. No.
Yeah, right? So.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great night.